Well, hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today in our webinar on Flipgrid Fever, how to hack the grid. First off, I want to thank the Flipgrid team for asking me to talk with you guys today. I'm super excited. I have so many great ideas of how to use Flipgrid in your classroom, in your school, and outside in your normal everyday life. But I'm also super excited to share with you how we use them on a daily basis here at our school, and our campus. So I'm actually going to be using a slide deck that I presented on with Flipgrid at NSTA this year. If you would like a copy of this slide deck, let me go ahead and give you that link. So later on, if you want to take a look at it, borrow it, use it, do whatever you want with it, you can go ahead and take it. So I'm just going to pop it up here on the screen for you. There you go. So there's a shortened URL for it, or if you have a QR code reader, you can go ahead and grab it right there. Take it, use it, modify it, make it better. Any way to get the idea of Flipgrid out to the rest of the community, I'm 100% for taking this and sharing it out. Now, what we're going to talk about today is basically why use Flipgrid in the classroom. Well, first off, why not? I mean, our kids are begging to use technology. They're already on social media. They're already, doing short videos on Instagram and on Snapchat. They already know how to do quick bits of information. Why not utilize that same technique in the classroom? Well, I want to hear your suggestions and I want to hear your thoughts along as this video is going. So please make sure you know that this webinar here is interactive. So while you're listening to it, please make sure that you are hashtagging Flipgrid Fever, and please make sure you tag myself, Joe Marquez 70, and Flipgrid in your post as well. We would love to see and hear what you are doing. First off, what is a digital native? Well, our students are digital natives, but what is the definition of that? There's a lot of different definitions that float here and there, but my definition of a digital native is somebody who has grown up with technology in their pocket. Right? I mean, when I was in high school, I had a computer, but it was in my room. That's not a digital native because when I left my room, I didn't have access to that technology. In college, I had a laptop, but that's not a digital native either because I could take it from my room to my school, but when I'm walking around, it's in my backpack or it's in my portfolio. I don't have access to it 24/7. True digital natives are those who grew up in the time of the digital device, the computer in your pocket, the cell phone, the smartphone. That is what creates a digital native. With information at their fingertips and the possibilities of the world in their pocket, that's a digital native. But the danger comes when we realize we never trained our kids how to use this powerful tool. We never trained our students how to use this tool for good, right? They know how to take selfies and duck faces and pictures of their food. But do they learn how to document their learning and how to pad their digital footprint with good things about their lives and their successes in school? We don't train that. We don't even ask them, do they know what that means? We need to start using the cell phone, the digital device, in class because we have to ask ourselves, does the use of a digital device, does that fiending, does that want that our students have end because a bell rings? Absolutely not. The moment the bell rings, they don't think, oh, let me put the device away. I won't think about this anymore. No, they're thinking about the last post they made. How many likes are on it? Did that boy retweet them? Did somebody respond to their snap? This is the stuff they're thinking about. So if we tell them to put their phones away, what chance do we have as a teacher to get their attention when they're fiending for that device in their pocket? I mean, right now, these kids are having their cell phones in their lap. I even have seen kids at my school put it under their seat so that when it vibrates, they can lift their seat up, look at it, and then respond. They're very sneaky. But if we let them know that they can use their device in class, but for good, that fiending will slowly go away because the tool begins to look as a digital tool for educational purposes first, and then a communication tool, and then an entertainment tool second and third. We need to start using the digital device because they do not stop wanting to use it because they hear a bell. This is the world our students live in. Every minute, 204 million emails are sent. And yeah, a lot of them is spam and a lot of them is phishing, but that's still a lot. 48,000 apps are downloaded. Now, I don't know if that's from the Apple Store or the Play Store. Maybe it's combined, maybe it's not. I don't know. 277,000 tweets are sent out every minute. That's an enormous amount of information. 72 hours of content uploaded to YouTube. How are we going to view all this stuff? And then 216,000 new photos on Instagram. Our students are already communicating, and they're being communicated to. Don't we want to make sure they're using their devices for the right purpose and in the right way? One way to do that is to infuse the technology into everyday teaching, not occasional teaching. I mean, I know us as educators always say, hey, remember when we did this in the classroom, or remember when we did this. Well, understand, we cannot say remember when because our kids never do. Our kids are living in their remember when. We need to train them how to say, what are we doing now? And how are we going to use our devices today? We need to train them how to use them properly. We have to stop thinking back to the way we used to do things, because the way we used to do things was for a different time. It was for a different age. It was for a different society. We can't be looking at our students on how we train them for colleges that are out there now, for jobs that are out there now. We have to start training them for colleges that haven't even been invented yet, classrooms that haven't even been thought of yet, jobs that haven't even been created yet. We have to look forward down the line 5, 10 years towards the future, not now. I mean, Wayne Gretzky said it great when he said, look, the reason I do so well is because I don't go after the puck where it is. I go after the puck where it's gonna be. We have to go after the puck. We have to go after the student where they're going to be, where they're going to need us. That's why we have to start using this technology in class. Because we should not be using more technology outside the classroom than inside it. Why? When our students are outside, if they want to look something up, they have their phone available to them. So in the classroom, why can't they do the same thing? Shouldn't classroom emulate the real world? Isn't that what we're striving for? For them to start utilizing the tools in class so that they can navigate the world outside the classroom? Well, then why are we limiting the tools when they walk into the class? Why are we not giving them every tool possible to accomplish a task? I mean, think about it. How would you feel if you were told you can't use your cell phone anywhere to do anything? A lot of us would be very, very concerned because a lot of us live on our phone and a lot of our students do too. So we have to start treating them and teaching them and training them how to use it properly. And where's the best place to do that? In class. And a lot of teachers always say, but cell phones or digital devices, those all cause distractions in the classroom. Well, yeah, because you're telling them not to use it. If you're telling them not to use the device, they're going to want to use the device. Now, if you give them a task to do with the device, well, then they're going to start doing the task with their device. I mean, then you have teachers that still say, but you know what? They're still going to be off task. They're still going to be doing this and doing that. They're going to be doing things they're not supposed to be doing on their phone. That's the distractions I'm talking about. Well, I always say to those teachers, hey, well, what about, have you ever been talking in class and your students are doodling on their paper instead of taking notes? And most teachers always say, of course, that's always happened before. And I say, what do you do to those students? Do you take away their pencil and take away their paper and say, there, learn without any of that? No, you wouldn't. You would never take away their pencil or their paper. You stop them and say, that's inappropriate. Please pay attention. Redirect them. Show them the proper way to use the device. That's the way we have to start thinking about the digital device. The digital device is the new pencil. We can't just take it away. We have to redirect them and show them the correct way to use it. Now, I'm not saying once you train them properly, they're never going to get off task. Of course they're going to get off task. They're kids. But we have to keep training them, and we have to keep showing them the power of using the tool in class for good, for proper education. And that there's a time and a place to respond to your tweets and your texts and your snaps. Over time, they will begin to get it. Not 100%, but enough to where the tool becomes more powerful. The positives become more positive than the negatives. We have to start looking at it that way. You know, we never give kids keys to a car when they turn 16 and say, there, go have fun with it. But that's what we do with the cell phone. We never train the kids how to use it properly and safely and correctly. That's on us. That's our fault. We have to start training the kids from an early age that technology is a benefit of society for educational use, for collaborative use, for communication. That's the importance. We have to do that. And the best way of doing this is with Flipgrid. This is what I found. I mean, there's lots of great tools out there, yes, and I use a lot. I'm going to show you how to app smash with Flipgrid. Multiple different apps on how we can smash them together to create great assignments. But we need to start learning how to use tools that are easy to access and train them how to use it in ways that they would normally use it in the real world. Because when given the choice, students will want to share their voice. I mean, you know, we have these kids in class who are very introverted, right? I mean, or in 8th grade, everybody, they don't want to raise their hand because, for some reason being smart is looked at as being not popular, which I don't understand at all. I mean, I think being smart should be praised and applauded by our fellow peers, not the other way around. But, I'm not an 8th grader at the moment. So we have to understand, how are we going to give a voice to every single one of our kids? By allowing them to use the tools that they use and have a voice with on a daily basis anyways. Flipgrid allows that voice to come out for our EL kids, for the kids that are introverted, that don't have a lot of friends but have a great mind, for those kids that know the answer but don't want to raise their hand so they can be singled out. Even for those kids that may not know the answer, but hey, let me give it a shot because I'm not saying it in front of everybody. Flipgrid gives that choice to give those students that voice. But don't start using these tools right away in a way of education. I mean, the moment you give them a tool and you put an educational reason after it, they're like, oh, it's an educational tool. So we have to do something that I coined Mr. Miyagi them. Give them Flipgrid. Give them a Flipgrid of something fun. Give them a Flipgrid of a question that has nothing to do with school. Now, here is our very first tip for you. One of the best ways to use Flipgrid is at the very beginning of the year. Have the kids do a flip on what they did over the summer. Where'd they go? What'd they do? Better yet, have your kids do a flip on who they are. Introduce themselves to the rest of the classroom. This is my name. This is what I like. These are my sports. This is my favorite team. This is my favorite movie. This is my favorite book. Hey, you may start connecting kids to other students who they would never have met or never have talked to normally, but they see that they connect on levels that they never would have figured out before. This is a great way to get a great community of learning in the very first week using Flipgrid. Have your kids record who they are and what they like and what they do, and have your students respond to 1, 2, 3, 4, all the other kids. Let them meet each other digitally. Heck, if you even have your students' emails or your parents' emails ahead of time, create the flip before school even starts, before the year even starts. Send out a nice message to all the families and say, hey, look, I'm super happy to have your student in my class this year. I'm trying something new. How about we introduce each other using this and have your students record their message from home? And the kids could already learn each other names and likes before they even come into class on the first day. Imagine that. The kids who sit opposite sides of the room, who never talk to each other the entire year, get to know each other even before the first day of school starts. Now, that's a great way to Mr. Miyagi your kids. That's a great way to start using Flipgrid and giving your kids a voice. Now, I want to share with you a few different ways that I've utilized Flipgrid in my science class this year. Now, first thing is my intro and exit ticket, right? So like the very first thing that I would have them do is open up their Google Classroom, and I have a flip already for them, and they have to explain to me, a few topics that we've discussed the day before. And then before they leave, they have to tell me the answer to the big idea, the main idea that we were trying to learn that particular day. Now, the great thing with this is kids may have gotten something different from the day before, or maybe the kids have an answer to the big idea that's different than somebody else's. We start to learn that not every question has a single answer, and not every student has the same perspective. Opening up each other's perspectives allows us to appreciate each other as people. That's what creates community. Another great thing that I like doing is the end of lab summaries right here. Now, I have one already made, so I want to go ahead and open this up for you so you can take a look. And what I do is I utilize a program called Formative. Formative is a great tool for any classroom. What it does is it creates digital worksheets or digital activities out of anything, maybe something you've already created or something you want to create from scratch. It's basically like a canvas for educators to do whatever they want. This particular one, I'm trying to teach my students about waves, and they have to read and annotate over a little article down here, and then they have to watch a YouTube video right here on waves and how energy is transferred. Then they have to do a Nearpod right here. Notice this allows me to bring in a lot of outside resources to prepare my students for the lab, right? I'm preloading a whole bunch of information so that they will be successful during the lab all the way through. I call these artifacts, things they have to find to discover the purpose of the lab. Then we have a great PhET activity, which they can do right here on the lab itself. And then, of course, we have our questions all the way down. But at the very bottom, look, we have a flip where ask them to label the different parts of, tell me, describe to me, what are the different parts of the wave? Now, I could write this in just a conclusion, right? I can ask them, hey, conclude a conclusion paragraph, give me 5 sentences, tell me the different parts of the wave and how they're using the word, blah, 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 blah. But you know what? They write that. They don't think about it. They don't reread it and rewrite it. But I'll tell you what, with Flipgrid, they actually take time because they know they're going to be on camera. They know their face and they know their voice is going to be out there for everybody to see. They're wanting to put their best foot forward. So they'll actually write down a conversation of what they want to say. They'll rewrite it until it sounds perfect. They'll record it and they'll listen to it again. And if they don't like it, they'll re-record it. They're putting more time into their conclusion by doing a Flipgrid than by if I asked for a stupid written response. This was a great revelation for me because they finally start to understand what needs to be said about the conclusion of a lab, everything that needs to be put in there. It's because they know other people will view it, because they're putting a face on their voice. That is a great option. Now, what I would like to do is I would like you to kind of emulate the student. So I'm actually going to give you a link to this lab. Even if you don't know anything about science, let's try it. So all I want you to do, I mean, you can do it now, you can do it later. If I don't put this up for a long enough time, you can always pause the video and grab it again. But go to this shortened URL, or once again, use your QR code reader off your phone and snap this QR code and do the lab a little bit, play around with it, and then go to the conclusion and leave me a conclusion. We're all going to be able to see it. So go on there and share your flip about what a wave is all about. Hey, who knows? It could be fun. Now, another great way is to make little mini movies in class, right? One great way is talking about Newton's 3 laws, right? Instead of writing a short paragraph about what Newton's first law is, the law of inertia, we call it the lazy law in our classroom, or Newton's second law, the equation F equals ma, we call that the anybody can play football law. Or Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. We call that the Cartman law. Now, the Cartman law from South Park, that that's a story for another time. You can always tweet me and ask me about the Cartman law, and I'll tell you it's a pretty funny story. But allowing them to go outside and demonstrate these laws in comical, fun ways, oh man, they really go at it. I mean, we actually did one in class where we had our students do a short 30-second to 1 minute ad for their planet. So they had to pitch their ad like it's a vacation spot, and they had to say all the good things, and if there was anything bad about it, they had to put a spin on it to make the bad sound good. And they can even research other planets and kind of diss the other planets, like, you don't want to go there, you don't want to go there. And they posted it up on Flipgrid. You know what? I want to share some of that with you right here. So I have my grid open right here, and this is from my period 2 science class. And here is our planet commercial. Now, we didn't record these directly off of Flipgrid. What we did was we recorded them from an app called Do Inc. They're a great little company. They work based off of Apple devices. And we recorded these, and we uploaded their final video, a raw footage of their video, to our Google Drive. And then they took their video out of their Google Drive and uploaded it into WeVideo, and then they had to cut the video down to 30 seconds to a minute. So a lot of these are pretty good. Let me go ahead and open one up. So I'll go ahead and open this one up, and you can take a look. Now, I don't know how good the video is going to be.
You know it. On Mars, we have longer days to do whatever you want. Such as sightseeing the landscapes on Mars at the mid-year with beautiful mountains and majestic oceans.
So, I mean, it was a great project. And here's the great thing. The kids had access to everybody's video, and part of the assignment was they had to go on and watch everybody's video and leave a comment on the great things they liked about the video and the things they should do better next time when we do another project like this, right? We always say critiquing other students is the best way to get our kids involved and the best way to learn. And so I always say, you know, give praise and then give criticism. Right? But it's constructive criticism. So always give praise and then give constructive criticism on how they can make things better. This was a great activity for our kids, and the use of the Flipgrid app allowed us to do it very easily. Now, group science scavenger hunts, right? Put them around school, and they can go around and once they find the answer to the scavenger hunt, they can do a flip on it. Hey, look what we found, blah, 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 and then move on to the next one. And so you can kind of pace by keeping, making a grid on the scavenger hunt and then making each topic maybe a different clue they had to find. And as they move on, you see the progress as they go. Lab station responses, right? Once again, the grid itself could be called lab waves, and then you could have different sections around the room where they have to do a variety of different activities. And instead of doing a written response, they have to do a group response via Flipgrid. Once again, every kid can then watch and see the different perspectives that each person got off those labs. Here's a great one. Classroom to classroom connections, right? This is great for debates or pros and cons, right? You have two classes that are getting ready. They use the same grids, right? And one of the grid topics is, let's say, pro-Confederacy in the Civil War, and another grid is pro-Union in the Civil War. And so no matter what class you're in, if you are a pro-Confederate person, then you have to put down a 1 to 2 minute response of why the Confederacy was in the right. And if you're a pro-Union, you say why the Confederacy, why the Union was in the right. And then no matter what class you're in, you have to go and you have to respond to the opposite points of view. And now you have kids responding to kids who are not even in your class. And don't even stop there with kids from one class and then right next door in another class. Why not do it with students in different schools across the district, or students in different districts or different parts of the state or different parts of the United States, or why not even different parts of the world? You know why? Because time doesn't matter with the Flipgrid. You can post something in a 3-hour time zone on the East Coast, and then when school starts up for the kids over on the West Coast, they can already be replying to those other kids. Time doesn't matter. Right? This is like a Skype chat, a mystery Skype, but with an educational purpose. And time zone doesn't matter, so you don't have to worry about, oh, well, I'm on the East Coast and you're on the West Coast, and let's find a time. You don't even have to do that. No, just do it. It's great. Sorry, I get so excited because this is such a great idea. What about student tips, right? I know in 8th grade, a lot of our kids are like, man, I wish I could have told myself something coming into class. And I wish I would have told myself to, buckle down a little bit more on our IDRs, which is our interactive digital readers. That's how we take notes in class. It's basically Cornell-style notes, but digitally enhanced, where they can input images and drawings of their own. They would have said to each other, hey, you should really do this a little bit better, or actually take your time to do it. So why not allow our 8th graders to tell the incoming 8th graders, hey, here's a little tip for you, and have the kids watch that. Have the kids watch that all the way down. How about back to school night for parent introductions, right? Have your parents, instead of having to come up and talk to you and say, hey, this is who I am, have your parents introduce themselves and their hopes that their student's going to get out of your class, and maybe their concerns or maybe things you want to help. This is a great way to keep a list and a face connection to parents and on how their kids need to be handled in class. What about, once again, a get to know you activity at the very beginning? Just like I said, the very first thing you should do in class, the very first thing you do next year, right? Get the kids connected. Have them do a flip about who they are and have all the kids watch each other and respond to them, right? Create that community in class. Screencasts. Oh, man, we're going to go all out with this next year. I trained my entire department on how to do this, and they were blown away. And next year, they're going to be doing this as well. So can I share this with you again? Let me show you something else. So let me go back to my period 2 grid, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up my seasons screencast. So what we had our students do was they had to view a Nearpod, which is basically like PowerPoint on steroids. It's fantastic. They had to view a Nearpod, and then they had to learn about the seasons, in this particular assignment. And then what they had to do is they had to put themselves in the shoes of a teacher or a friend. And a friend comes up to them in the same class and says, hey, I was shown this Nearpod about the seasons, and I don't understand a thing. Well, the screencast was them explaining to that student in their own words and in their own way how to understand how the earth gets its seasons. So what we had our students do, and once again, this wasn't completely done on Flipgrid. We're app smashing here, right? So we actually had the Nearpod open that they were going through. I have a nice little Chrome extension right up here called Page Marker that they can write over their screen with. And then we used a nice little app called Screencastify. It's free screen recording up to 15 minutes, which the kids aren't going to record over 5. So it's perfect. And once they're done, it uploads right to Flipgrid. And so we have our students.
All right, so we're talking about a solar system today. So the Earth moves in 2 ways in space. It moves as on its axis, so it's and getting. So the Earth is moving to each other because of gravity.
So basically, the students are sharing their knowledge of what they just learned, right? We always say the best way to tell if somebody learned something is if they could teach it to somebody else. That's what they get to do. They know going in they have to learn it because they're going to have to prove they can teach it to somebody else. Showing the power of their knowledge, showing that they can teach it, shows that they have learned the material. Flipgrid was a great way of doing this. It was fantastic. We absolutely enjoyed it. Here's a great one. I mean, I love this one. Claymation models. Right? And you don't have to use clay. I did. I went to the dollar store and bought a whole bunch of clay for my kids. But you can also use construction paper. Basically just time-lapse models of a certain aspect. So I want to show you another one. So, I mean, I love showing examples of my students' work of the way some students did stop motion. So this was stop motions on the seasons or the moon's phases. And let me go ahead and show you this one right here. And so basically this one was filmed right off of Flipgrid using the pause feature. So they would place the clay and they would then hit pause. And I told them I'm going to be watching this without sound. The whole point of this was to show me a model of the seasons or the solar system or the moon's cycles, and that I can visually see it. And all this was done right off of a Chromebook, and a lot of students use their phones, and all they had to do was hit record, pause, then change it up a little bit, record, pause, change it up a little bit, and it creates this great visual Gumby style claymation. I mean, you can do this with cells, you can do this with seasons, you can do this with planets, you can do this with almost any type of activity. Heck, even in math, you can do this with a whiteboard, right? Have the students do a step-by-step flip grid using a whiteboard where they do a little bit of a step each time, and afterwards they can explain how they got their answer, right? Showing that they know what they're doing, proving that they learned by teaching. That's what Flipgrid allows us to do. And it also allows us to view each other's work and see that different perspective of how to reach a common goal. This is fantastic. I loved this claymation feature that we did. And finally, here's something we're going to start doing next year. Anytime tutoring, right? All of our kids have problems with certain aspects of our classrooms, right? With certain aspects of what we're teaching. So why not have kids be able to post a question on a flip and have the AP students or the higher students up at the high school, I'm talking about intermediate right now, my 8th graders can post a physics question, and the AP students, as part of their grade, they have to respond. And the great thing is they can respond from anywhere as long as they have that Flipgrid app on their phone, right? We're going to be doing this next year. I'm going to be going to all the AP classes and go, hey, could you actually add in as part of your student's grade digital tutoring, where, you know, every time they respond to a student's questions, they get an accolade or a point or something? Because those students who are in the AP classes, they got there for a reason, and they are able to help our students down here. So anytime tutoring, anytime a student has a question and boom, they have it, I think that's a great idea. So that's how I use them in the classroom. But what about at your school or outside your classroom for the district or at conferences? Well, once again, our school's big. I don't know about yours. And I don't know every single person on this campus. I mean, I may recognize a face, but I may not put that face to a name. And I may not know exactly what they do. I mean, that's a problem with myself. But the students, if I don't know them, the students just definitely don't know all the staff. So why not have a staff Flipgrid where you introduce yourself? Like, hi, I'm Mr. Marquez. I teach 8th grade science. I'm in room 404. If you ever need help with technology, you know where to go. Something like that. Something like that. And not only can the students use it, but the teachers can use it as well. What about whole school interviews? We just recently finished up digital citizenship using the commonsensemedia.org citizenship curriculum. And I wanted to see what our students got out of it. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of technology in the classroom, but I'm also a huge proponent of training the kids how to properly use it. And digital citizenship is a great part of that. So I wanted to see if there was any impact from our students. And so I shot out a Flipgrid to the fellow teachers, and I asked them, hey, can you ask your students how they thought about the digital citizenship? And within an hour, I got 339 responses from the kids. Now, I didn't have to go class to class and collect, do like a man on the street type interview. They came to me. Isn't that a great pulse check for your school? Do an all school Flipgrid and see what your kids think about certain topics? Man, it's like you have tons of reporters at your fingertips with this Flipgrid. What about a virtual Pixel Pal? This is great for our EL and foreign language teachers, which I have down here on the bottom, right? A Pixel Pal would be like a pen pal that you talk to digitally. And once again, time zone doesn't matter because you just leave each other messages and respond to the messages back and forth. I mean, that can be a fantastic way to have foreign language kids practice their Spanish or their German or their French. Heck, if you connect with a fellow teacher, let's say that you're teaching French, if you connect with a teacher in France who's teaching English, you can have it both ways. Have our students talk to them in German and have a German response, or our kids talk to them in English and have an English response. We're helping each other out. That's a great way to do that cross-continental collaboration, right? Create a global community, letting our kids know that a classroom is not a room with four walls. A classroom takes place wherever learning and connection takes place. That school isn't a location. School is a state of mind. And bettering yourself and understanding that there are different people out there in your same shoes is a great awe-inspiring aha moment for our kids. That's what we need to do, and that's what Flipgrid allows us to do. Senior legacy posts, right? I mean, wouldn't it be great if you asked your outgoing seniors, whether it's outgoing 8th grade students going to high school or outgoing 12th grade students going to college, what are your most important memories of going to this school? What are some of your achievements and takeaways? Maybe talk about a teacher that inspired you. These are some great things that we have to start looking into. These are some great things that we have to start having our students do. They have a voice, and we should hear it. We need to hear it. Don't just let them go. Let them share. What about school rules, right? Maybe have your school leadership do some skits and give instances of a do and a don't. This is an appropriate dress code. This is not. I mean, so the kids get visuals on, oh, that's what they mean by that school rule, or oh, that's what they mean by thongs. You know, talking about the sandals, not the undergarment, right? Doing it visually helps the kids out, and you can put that grid right on your webpage so the kids can click on it. Boom! Ah, I see the school rules. What about sports clips? I know your school goes out there and you have a videography team that records the sports. Why not create like a highlight reel of that week's sports and just put it on a grid, have the kids watch it and leave their comments? I mean, it's a great way for us to get these kids involved. What about a Flipgrid booth? I've been seeing this huge thing going on the Twitter sphere about Flipgrid booths. I think it's a fantastic idea. I saw somebody, whoever it is, please give her a shout out because she did a great job, where she took a refrigerator, an old refrigerator box, and she put wrapping paper around it and printed out Flipgrid all around and had a computer. And during a conference that they had locally, they had the participants of the conference come in and share what they learned in the conference and what they liked and all these things. Why can't we push that over to maybe school dances as well? Right? Have a Flipgrid booth at a school dance. Instead of doing a photo booth, it's a Flipgrid booth. No, tell us what you think about this dance. Tell us, say hi to a friend who's not here, or leave something about the dance. Of course, you probably want to have that moderated, so you can choose which videos get posted. Maybe you don't want to do that instantly, but that's a great option. Speaking of conferences, hey, have you ever been to a conference where you read a session and you're like, that's a great session. That's a session I want to go to. And you get to it and the presenter is a little bit drab, right? I mean, you're trying to stay awake, but Mr. Sandman has extra sand being thrown in your eyes. And you're like, man, I had 2 different options I wanted to go to and I chose this one and I'm smack in the middle of 1,000 people. How am I going to get out of here? Well, wouldn't it be great if instead of just a session title, that the conference created a grid of all the sessions and they had to give like a 30-second throwdown of what their session is going to be about? Because not only that, are you not only going to see what the presenter is going to talk about, but you get to see the motivation and the excitement. And does he really like presenting what he's going to present on? Is this somebody that's going to excite me and want me to go to? And I mean, maybe even a session that you're like, the written thing's not that great, but you hear the throwdown, you're like, whoa, I got to go to that guy's session or that lady session. Why not? Why not? These are all the great things that Flipgrid allows for us to try and do. And that's amazing. That's why I love these guys. They created a tool that is good for inside the classroom, inside the school, but here's a great thing about it. What about in your everyday life? right? Yes. Birthday wishes, anniversary wishes. We have family that live all across this great country, and they can't always visit us when we have a birthday or an anniversary. But man, you may sure want to hear their wishes towards you. Maybe not just a card, but see their face. Send out a Flipgrid topic on your mom's birthday or your parents' anniversary or your anniversary. I'll tell you what, my little girl is turning 1 on June 4th. Now, she is my world. She is phenomenal, and I thank God every day that he blessed her to me. And I want the world to share their excitement, my excitement towards her on her first birthday. So I actually created a Flipgrid for all the family members to wish her happy birthday, to give them their thoughts and maybe advice on the future. But you know what? Twitter, my Twitter friends and my Flipgrid family, you're my family as well. And you're educators and you're on top of things. Why not have you give my daughter a birthday wish? So I know this is kind of selfish on my part, but I actually created a Flipgrid for my daughter's birthday. So if you are watching this webinar now, later, even my daughter's birthday is on June 4th, but even before or after, if you're watching this a year from now, right? This is 2017. If you're watching this in 2018, 2019, 2020, if you're watching it, still leave her a message. I'm sure I'm going to keep the grid open. This is one of those programs that I'm never, ever, ever going to leave behind. So, I mean, if you can go onto that shortened code right there, or once again, take out your QR reader, leave my daughter a message and tell her about the future and what's important. Why is education important? Why should she continue to strive towards success? I'm sure she would love to hear from not just family members, but from a community of educators that all we want, the whole reason we started this job was to make the world a better place. And the way that we do that is by creating great citizens and great students and build them up. Why not have those people, the greatest people in the world, the greatest profession in the world, the most important people in the world? Why not have them leave my daughter a wish and wish her well and give her advice? So please, if you could do that for me, that'd be phenomenal, and I'd be forever grateful. Now, I mean, this one came up with me at nighttime, was a neighborhood watch thing. In your neighborhood, how about all your neighborhood members have a grid? And whenever anything suspicious looks like it's happening, they open up the grid and hit record. Heck, you see somebody walking down the street, record them and say, does anybody know this person? I caught this person, blah, 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 blah. A nice little neighborhood watch as a neighborhood community type thing going on, right? And then, of course, Twitter PD. Twitter PD is a great thing. So what I would also like to do is I would like to open up a grid for this Flipgrid Fever webinar. I mean, after you've watched all of this and heard my ideas and got the Flipgrid Fever blood flowing, how are you going to use Flipgrid in your classroom? How has Flipgrid changed your classroom already, or how can you foresee it changing your classroom in the future? How is app smashing Flipgrid with a Nearpod or with a Screencastify or another app like GoFormative? How is this going to allow you to finally realize that 21st century classroom vision that you want? Right? And this all goes back to what we've said before already about the digital device. We need to make sure that we're allowing our students to use these devices that they already use on a daily basis. We need to make sure they're using their cell phones in class, so they already being trained how to get use out of their devices. can't just live in a realm of hope that they're going to use their device properly. We have to make sure that we are training them to use it. So you can see myself in the background doing this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you once again the Flipgrid QR code. Popping up in 1 second. So here's the shortened QR code, the shortened URL and the QR code. If this webinar influenced you in any way, or you have a great Flipgrid story you want to share out, a great idea that I did not include, that you can see a way that Flipgrid can be used for the classroom, school, district, or personal use, share it with us. Now, once again, everything that we've gone over can be found on my slide deck, but I also have a blog called sonsoftechnology.com. And on this blog, you can click on the blog link down here, and you'll see the very first thing that I have up here is Flipgrid Fever, hacking the grid. Feel free to go back through and review some of the expanded ideas of how I use them in class. And once again, I encourage you to share with us, how do you hack the grid? How do you take a device like Flipgrid with the idea of recording student voice in class and make it even more powerful? How do you flip it for outside the classroom, for your school, for your district, and for your community? How are you going to make sure that Flipgrid Fever catches on? How are you going to use Flipgrid to enhance and motivate your students on a daily basis? Once again, my name is Joe Marquez, and I appreciate being able to be with you here with you today. Once again, my Twitter handle is Joe Marquez70, and I'd love to hear your response to this webinar. I would love to chat with you on how you're using Flipgrid, or just chat with you in general about how we both enjoy being educators in this great society. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for doing what you do. And thank you so much for being a member of our EdTech Army on a mission to change the world from the bottom up. Thank you so much, and keep on flipping.